Hello everyone and welcome to Sunburned. Albino lists every game he's played this month. This month being August of 2023, and they decided to flood the back end with a bunch of important games, so I haven't had time to properly digest some of them. Blasphemous 2, Sea of Stars, Goodbye Volcano High, Armored Core 6, and the early access for Starfield all decided to release in a 6-day time span, so some of those are going to get talked about next month instead, but we've still got some hitters and missers out here to discuss, so let's go over them. Number 1, Baldur's Gate 3. Sorry to hit you with some cold water right out of the gate, but I have not had a chance to play too much of this game. Everyone is raving about it being the best thing since sliced titties, and I'm sure it's warranted because Larian Studios was previously responsible for Divinity Original Sin 2, a game which I like to confidently say is the best PC game ever made. Baldur's Gate 3 is basically Divinity but with added Dungeons & Dragons elements, and while these work, it feels like my Divinity experience doesn't really carry over for some reason. In my beginning hours, I felt very underpowered and at a strategic loss for how to turn battle tides in my favor. Attacks seem like they have terrible accuracy overall, and all my shit would just miss constantly. I assume as you level up and get better gear that these problems correct themselves, and Divinity 2 was also a bit slow to start up until you get your source collar removed and start properly exploring, so I'm assuring myself that my experience will get better over time, but I fell off and got busy with other things, so this is something I need to get back to eventually. Number 2, Texas Chainsaw Massacre. I'm not a Dead by Daylight fan, but I had a good amount of fun with Friday the 13th, so Texas Chainsaw Massacre was something I was interested in trying, and since it's free on Game Pass, why not? I've played a few rounds as different killers and a few rounds as a survivor, and while I'm definitely not good yet, I can see some of the pieces falling into place. There's a very prevalent get good mentality about these kinds of games because success depends on teamwork and coordination, and if you're an inexperienced killer up against a group of expert escape artists, getting trolled feels very bad. In Texas Chainsaw Massacre, it's 3 killers versus 4 survivors, but the survivors can still outmaneuver you pretty decently and with no match timer. I had one match that took almost half an hour because the final survivor didn't even bother to escape and just hid from us till I got bored. Knowing map layouts is crucial, and I don't yet, so things can get frustrating when you're like, how the fuck are people escaping? But I've managed to escape a couple times without ever being found or chased, and as one of the killers, I had a round where I never found a single survivor. Knowledge will help you like this game more if you're willing to put in the time. I liked Friday the 13th more, but especially with a lobby of friends, this could be a good sustainable time. Number 3, Venba. Venba is a short little Indian indie visual novel with cooking elements about an immigrant Indian family who moves to Canada to try and start a better life for their child while struggling with the fact that he's assimilating a little too hard and rejecting his roots. The gameplay involves cooking cultural dishes while following incomplete recipes, so there's a bit of a puzzle element to figuring it out. It's like a 90-minute game, all told, but even though they gloss over a really important narrative beat for no reason near the end, I still found myself glad I played it. It's another Game Pass game, which is where you should get it, because $15 is too much for a game that's even shorter than a movie. It's not going to blow your mind or make you bawl your eyes out or anything, but it's a nice story. Number 4, Sea of Stars. I had my eyes on this game as a potential banger as soon as the first trailer dropped, and my expectations were played with a bit, but it's ended up cementing itself as a fantastic indie game now that I put my hands on it for about 10 hours. Sea of Stars had a demo that I don't think really did the game much justice. All of the tutorials were tucked away in a menu to be binged and promptly forgotten about, so I didn't really understand the intricacies of combat and left feeling dissatisfied. But once you play the game proper and have things introduced to you in a digestible piecemeal format, it all clicks and makes Sea of Stars the tremendous game I initially thought it would be. It's got modern turn-based RPG mechanics with timings to power up attacks and blocks, and the ability to choose an extra stat to enhance upon leveling up, which I think more games should do. Like, you level up and most stats go up, but then they give you an option to pick another stat to get a little extra boost and feel like you're taking some agency in how your character is built while still becoming more powerful in most areas anyway. Koromon is another recent game that did this, and I just appreciate it as a mechanic. It doesn't feel like it'll make a big difference, but it still feels like you're scaling a little faster in the areas you want. Sea of Stars is one of those indie games that's just the whole package, where everything is good, and while I don't hate AAA games by any means, anyone who often complains about them should consider this an alternative breath of fresh air, the kind of game you still play games for. Also, it's free on both Game Pass and PlayStation Plus, the first of its kind, but this game deserves your money, so you should also buy it outright somewhere. Number 5, Gunbrella Demo. Devolver doesn't always publish good games, but when they do, it's noticeable. Gunbrella is a 2D action shooter slash platformer about a guy who has a gun that's also an umbrella, and it leads to some pretty slick and smooth action if the demo is anything to go by. You can shoot, dash, float, and block bullets with your special firearm contraption, and it leads to gameplay that kind of feels like if Celeste was a shooter. The demo didn't really show off any permanent progression like upgrades or abilities, so I don't know if this will be a novelty that wears out before the game does, but I have high hopes for Gunbrella, which releases in full September 13th, so I'll get back to you in the next video. Number 6, Lil Gator Game. Man, it's a double-edged sword when Steam highlights a game from a year or so ago in the special offer section, because you can try it at a reduced price and find a terrific experience, but it also makes you wish you'd known about it a lot sooner when it came out. Lil Gator Game is maybe the most unassuming game I've ever seen, but when you play it, it doesn't take long to realize you've hit an innocent, emotional jackpot. You're a Lil Gator playing an IRL make-believe fantasy game about undertaking quests and being a hero, and basically the whole deal is that you used to do this all the time with your big sister, but she grew up and has less time for you. So now you're putting on this huge spectacle quest full of mini missions with over 70 other kids to build up a playground and get her to notice you again. It's unbelievably touching in a way that is designed to melt cynicism and make you feel like a kid again yourself, and somehow it does that while also managing to be genuinely funny at times without try-harding or being cringe. There's a natural comedic flow to this game that weaves its way effortlessly through its entire genetic makeup and uses innocence and charm as a tool to subvert expectations, to where even basic comedic concepts become funny again because of how they're presented. You undergo special quests for each kid on the island, ranging from slaying cardboard cutout monsters surrounding them, to convincing a cow to jump into the ocean, to an Ace Attorney-style minigame where you prove a kid is lying about not being able to talk because he wants to seem cool. Completing these character-specific quests sends the kids back to the playground so you can use them to help build up a fantasy castle and hopefully impress your sister. I spent about 4 hours working towards a narrative payoff just because I wanted to see what would happen when he finally showed his sister all the hard work they all did, and I was not disappointed. I cried for like 5 minutes. So if you're looking for a game that ratchets escapism up to 11 and gets you in your feels, check out Lil Gator Game. Number 7, Starfield. As of this writing, I have only put about 6 hours into Starfield, and it's going to be the first game I mention twice in a row after release, because I'm going to put it in my September Games video too after I spend more time with it to see where I stand later on, because I'm hoping it changes. Starfield is a game I've been anticipating as a Game of the Year contender for almost 2 years. I was initially a hater, because I saw it as a reason why Elder Scrolls 6 wasn't going to come out sooner, but after they did their deep dive presentation, I was sold. But that presentation was definitely misleading. All the mechanics they showed off look and conceptualize great in a vacuum, but the connective tissue that they failed to show off really makes the game feel like a chore at times. The graphics are good, the shooting is good, the NPC interactions are good, the ship combat is good, but the travel and menu navigation that exists between all these things really bogs it down, and frankly, even the planets that are populated are not worth exploring. New Atlantis, the first major city you come across and the headquarters of the main quest group you eventually join, is on the planet Jemison. You can explore other areas of Jemison too by landing in different sites. So I went to a research facility and got a side quest from a guy who wanted me to go bring back some data buried underground in a cave over 1,000 meters away. Halfway there, I come across a tiny industrial plant, and a guy there wants me to go bring back a runaway employee 700 meters away in a different direction. The problem is that walking even 100 meters takes too long and is boring as shit, and no amount of creatures or plants to scan or shoot really livens it up, and there's no mounts or terrain vehicles to make traversal faster. Now, I could use discovered locations as fast travel destinations once I reached them to make backtracking faster, but I actually didn't know that for several hours because Starfield's travel systems are so confusing now. Like, that would have been an obvious thing to do in Skyrim or something, but here it takes a couple extra button presses to even get to the local planet map instead of a map of the whole damn galaxy, so it just feels like I'm fighting the menus trying to go where I'm actually trying to go, which feels like something I would eventually get used to, but it hasn't happened yet after 6 hours, so enjoy the resulting head trauma when you first decide to try to figure this game out. Starfield also has the same problem I had with Fallout 4 in regard to the skill system, which is that I'm not going to be able to play how I want to play until I'm much later in the game and unlock the prerequisite skills to make stealth viable. People hear me coming a mile away while crouching. I don't have the weapon engineering levels necessary to make suppressors. Melee attacks don't seem to even do sneak attack damage in the beginning and don't count as sneak attacks towards leveling up your stealth skill. I couldn't perform a sneak attack and have it count until I found a sniper and hit someone from a mile away. In Skyrim, your stealth build was foolproof as soon as you got the perk that reduced the noise from your armor, and sneak attacks always counted for everything except magic, so you could build the stat up from the get-go. I believe I will eventually enjoy this game, but it starts very slow and requires more investment than I'm willing to put in with all these other games to play first, so I am prioritizing them. I regret buying the $100 early access version for sure. I haven't played the game since the first day, and now it just fully launched and I want my $40 back, but I played it too long to get a refund to buy the standard edition. That's what I get for being impatient, I guess. And that's every game I played this month. Tune in next month for every game I played that month. Like, share, and subscribe. Watch all my other videos while fast traveling between home and work, and I'll see you guys next time.